tendency is inconsistency avoidance. We don't like inconsistency. This is another offshoot of cognitive dissonance, and it is our reluctance to change. We like to think of ourselves as consistent, and there's no reason to change, so we have consistent behaviors. Now, here's a good question for you. How many bad habits have you eliminated? Now, if you say you don't have any bad habits, take inventory again. You might very well find you might have a bad habit. And if you do have a habit that you'd like to get rid of, how many times have you actually been able to eliminate it? It's very tough to do. And these are not just for the addiction problems of smoking and so on, but just general bad habits of doing something wrong, maybe spending too much money, or not maybe eating right, or not getting up early, or whatever habit that you found that you feel is not something you want to do. It's somewhat difficult to get rid of them. We tie this to doubt avoidance to be stronger. So we have inconsistency avoidance tied with doubt avoidance, and the two of them combined become a very strong force. Now, having said that, it's not the complexity of new ideas from being accepted. The complexity we can overcome, however, is the reluctance to change. We don't like change. I want to be in my routine. Changing my routine. I've seen many employees, when there's some sort of change, like to the software, to the system, or to the organization, or there's somebody new doing something, and there's significant reluctance to that change. This is the inconsistency avoidance that we try to avoid. This also ties into confirmation bias and hypothesis testing, which we will cover in other theories. So you don't want to be inconsistent, and we want to confirm that we're correct. And of course, we want to test our hypotheses and look at them as that if we find evidence that confirms our beliefs, that's good. And of course, hypotheses testing exactly the opposite. We're not looking for confirmation. We're looking for the opposite of that, proving that we're incorrect. We want to reject the null hypotheses and accept the alternative. Now, the interesting thing here is the person making new changes will, once they make the changes, will become even more devoted to the changes. You see this into people who've lost weight that all of a sudden become health nuts. You can see this in people who have reconverted, say born-again Christians, where they become very devout Christians. You can see it as somebody who's given up smoking, and all of a sudden they become advocates for not smoking. So the inconsistency is a problem, and then once they overcome that, they become very devout about it. And the inconsistency to make such a big change wasn't a big deal after the fact. Before the fact, obviously, that's a problem. Now, with regard to inconsistency, Benjamin Franklin had an interesting way of looking at this. So Benjamin Franklin would say that what you should do if you want someone to like you is to borrow something from them, and his way of doing it was to borrow a book. And so the reason he does this is because if you lend me a book, you must like me. By definition, that you don't lend people to people you don't like, you don't trust. You must like them, you must trust them. If you lend them a book or lend them anything of value, anything that you could ask for. So if you want someone to like you, borrow something from them. Obviously, you need to give it back, or that would be a problem. But if you borrow a book from someone, read the book, and give it back to them, that proves that not only are you trustworthy, but they like you, and you will build a relationship that way, because they don't want inconsistency in their life. It would be inconsistent to lend a book to somebody they didn't like or they didn't trust, and therefore, by lending it to you, you've proven that you're trustworthy, and therefore, you're building a relationship. And that comes from Benjamin Franklin, from hundreds of years ago. So people are still human. We're still fickle, and we're still human. This also works well in reverse. You can manipulate someone into hurting someone because they will not like them, or you would be inconsistent. So this is shoot the messenger. If you can get someone that you want to not like someone, tell them to bring bad news to whoever it is, and that will impact the relationship as well. It would be inconsistent to like the person who just told you that whatever it is, it could be something like the business was lost, we lost an account today, the production line is shut down, whatever it is, or something else happened. If you are the one that tells them, oftentimes the natural tendency is to be to shoot the messenger because there's bad news, therefore I have to dislike you, because it would be inconsistent not to dislike the person who gave me this bad news. So be careful of it in reverse as well. So inconsistency avoidance is something that we can look at in many ways, and to overcome this, we just need to recognize it when it happens. That's the most important thing here. So the question is there something here that could come up as inconsistent, either in the positive or in the negative? And if there is, then we need to address it ahead of time, either by offsetting it with a third party, or with, in some cases, doing exactly the opposite. So you would frame something in a way that would get you to like the person before you gave them bad news, so the effect would be muted. So think of it that way as well. So inconsistency avoidance is important. Benjamin Franklin knew it, so we've covered it here, and I think Charlie Munger and Benjamin Franklin are two people we should pay attention to.